I'm
Can I start with mine?
We're not.
You done?
I'm done.
We'll find it. Did you get a cookie down there?
Bubba is done.
All right, we're gonna pass it this way. I don't know.
Otherwise,
We're gonna eat them all.
Usually Joanne.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. She's doing it in absentia now.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Call to order. Salute to the flag.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth? Counselor Angeloni?
Here.
Counselor Caprio? Here. Counselor Diamond?
Here.
Counselor Fawnin? Counselor Fucy?
Yeah, here.
Counselor Rose?
Here.
Counselor Arman?
Here. Now we got 7.
Good. No, I'm good, thanks. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the February 24th, 2015 special town council meeting minutes?
Well, I just want to make a change to that. It says Thursday, February 24th. I think it was actually Tuesday, February 24th. That'd be the only correction I have.
You have a second.
I just corrected it, seconded, I
Okay.
seconded, so.
All right, moved by Counselor Diamond, seconded by Counselor Fucy, which showing the correction of the date. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Abstain.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Here.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Abstain.
March 7th, 2015 special town council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Diamond. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Abstain.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Abstain.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
A motion to approve the March 7th, 2015 budget workshop, 2015-2016.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Diamond. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Abstain.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Item D, March 10th, 2015 special WPCA town council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Arman. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get into the meeting, I just wanted to say good evening to everyone. And this evening, we are going to allow 3 minutes for citizen statements on items only on the agenda. This is a statement. It is not a debate with the council. You know, you can make your statement. And with all due respect, after the 3 minutes, please stop. And I expect that we all show each other respect towards one another. And the council has a lot of town business during budget time to discuss. If you are unable to remain quiet, you will be asked to remove. And please turn off your cell phones. And I hope we have a good meeting this evening. Thank you. Regular town council meeting. Item 3, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Permanent Project Building Committee.
There's no report. It was the last meeting I reported on that.
Okay. Item B, Economic Development Commission.
Nothing to report, but I still welcome your comments on the draft RFP for 1599.
Okay. Item C, Board of Ed and Town Council Communications Subcommittee.
We met last Wednesday. Some of the items on the agenda were just updates on the projects at the high school, science labs, bathrooms, the track, bathrooms and track need additional funding. The track needs additional funding, which is in their capital request to complete that project for this year. The bathrooms have some funding in it. It would need additional to complete all of the bathrooms, so they are in the process of working on that. That is also in their capital request for this year. And the science labs, we have already appropriated money for that, which that work is scheduled to be done this summer after school is out. And we talked about the NBIS project, which I believe has been closed out from the state level, and we have to pay back approximately $118,000 based on the audit that was done with that. We talked about field use, primarily using the high school field for youth football to play any playoff games or championship games, which is generally at the end of their season on the high school field. They had issues with their current home field last year with parking and handicap accessibility, so this was a request to try and help them, and the superintendent of schools has agreed to that they can play their playoffs and championship games. If they don't get to that point, they just wouldn't play. They do play one game a year on the field. So, and I think that was about it that we talked about.
Are they looking to work on the bathrooms and the other infrastructure during the summer as well, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. This was started during last year's budget. We had appropriated some money, so they have done some work, and this is to complete the work.
Thank you, Rose. Item D, Park and Recreation.
Park and Rec met last night. There has been lengthy discussion in regards to field usage for all sports, but primarily baseball and football. And so there was a subcommittee meeting today with Fran Marola and members of the youth football board to talk about their playing field for this upcoming year in addressing the issues that they've dealt with last year. It was a very good meeting. Fran brought a lot to the table and some possible solutions. So they're in the point right now where they're going to go back, draw their plan, see once what works, go to Park and Rec so that they can explain everything to Park and Rec as to what would be done, and then Park and Rec would make their recommendation to the council. But I think it's a good solution temporarily to get us through until the council can meet, form their subcommittee of the goals for the town, and then moving forward, what the field situation would look like along with town buildings. So Franny's proposal was not anything permanent, but it's a good temporary solution that will help us through this situation. So we talked about that at Park and Rec, and they also talked about the needs for some playscape equipment, which Pam had talked about in her budget workshop. For the summer program this year, she's going to try and see if she can get something in there for their program. And their Park and Rec is also looking to possibly change their meeting date and time, so it's more conducive to the commission members. That's it.
Thank you. Item E, Fire Commission. They will be meeting, I think they had a meeting this evening, and I could not attend due to the council meeting. Item F, Police Commission.
No report. The next meeting will be the second Monday in April.
Okay. All right, item 4, Town Manager's Report. Item A, discussion of property assessment values. Our assessor, Dave Ambrose, is here. Before we get started, I just wanted to kind of start from ground zero a little bit. After our meeting last Tuesday, I made a phone call to our town assessor, Mr. Ambrose, good evening, and also to the town manager. The first correspondence was, Chris, I believe you misrepresented me at the last town council meeting. You relayed my tentative estimate of value out of context. I am planning on attending the next town council meeting to discuss the valuation process in general terms. And I thank you. And then I received a correspondence from, it was from Chris Kranick to Dave Ambrose. That may be possible. If so, I apologize. I was going by the $303,000 number you provided, and that the tanks would be personal property. Of course it's an estimate. Does that not include fencing, types of heating, cooling, shrubbery, and so on? We are trying to get a realistic range, and what those assumptions are based on, that's all. The mayor said $100,000. Economic development said $38,000. I couldn't find a scenario to get to those numbers. My intention was certainly not to get you involved in a controversial issue the mayor is strongly in favor of. However, we have asked for the numbers and assumptions for 3 months now. The public has a right to know. I look forward to your revisions and your base assumptions for more clarity on this issue. Sincerely, Chris Kranick. I then spoke to you, Mike, correct? And on Wednesday, March 11th, 2015, approximately 9:25 a.m., in response to the emails forwarded and in regards to Mr. Kranick, and at that time you stated that Mr. Kranick had misrepresented himself to Mr. Ambrose as a developer for J.J. Sullivan to obtain information. In the email dated Thursday, March 12th, 2015. Mr. Kranick acknowledges this deception and is spreading misinformation about numbers regarding 40 Cyril Road, and it is quite obvious that Mr. Kranick, in my opinion, is a person that cannot be trusted and will not be, and he will be misrepresented himself, spreading false information in order to deceive others, and has falsely accused me of making statements that I have never made. And I'm not going to tolerate this slander or any other deception that's causing a divide in our town and putting people, including myself, in danger by bullying, tactics, and extremely dangerous behavior, and this will not be accepted. And I hope all this behavior will cease and desist. And now I'll call Mr. Ambrose up, and you can explain what was discussed.
Yeah, if I could, before David gets up, just again to clarify, because David, I had numerous conversations since the last council meeting, and obviously the council felt that he should be here. So we talked about why he would be here tonight, and clearly from last council meeting, the information that was presented was incomplete, and that's what David here is to tell you. I mean, we all know that as a rule, sort of a process, unimproved land or unimproved lot to an improved lot is going to add value. It's hard for David or anyone to do that in a vacuum without knowing all the information. And again, the word I used was speculation, and certainly Dave can tell you, it's when something's complete that the assessor goes out and gets a thorough audit and covers everything. So with that, I'll turn that over to Dave.
Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
council members.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, guys. From time to time, a taxpayer will ask me to estimate their taxes based upon, if they, let's say, built a garage, a shed, in-ground pool. And these items are very easy to estimate. I just type numbers or figures or the information into our database, and it spits out a value, if you will. Sometimes a taxpayer may ask me to estimate a tax based upon something a little more involved. Okay? And when I provide the taxpayer with the estimated value, it's littered with limitations. I mean, at least 6 or 7 that I list in my correspondences with whomever asks the information of me. In the case of Sierra Road, I haven't even seen any plans yet. All I did was give an estimated value for a generic office building of 1,000 square feet and in the garage.
Who provided that?
Chris came in the office, a piece of paper, and he said, if I write this down, can you give me a value? So I did. I just valued a typical 1,000 square foot office building, industrial office building, and I gave him the information with all these caveats. Just to let you know, to clarify the situation, I didn't even take into consideration the tanks themselves. I mean, that's the biggest component of the property. That's the big ticket item. It's easy to look at a book and say, okay, a tank cost, a 30,000 gallon propane tank cost, I don't know, just a number out of left field, $100,000, okay? But that doesn't take into consideration, installation, which is substantial, transportation, and the piping, for example. So there will need to be calls made to manufacturers and a lot of research on my part. Once the plans are approved and once I actually see the plans, not only then, I have to go to the property and inspect it. So, and also, toward the end of the process, I'll need to determine what method to use. I mean, are there enough sales to actually use a sales approach to value the property? Now, I'm guessing that the owner of the property is leasing the property to the tank, the propane company, and if that's the case, then I need to talk to the landlord. What's your annual rent? What are your expenses? And so there's so many variables involved that it's just way too early to even get close to a value for this thing, for this point in time.
The devil's in the details.
Right, there are a lot of details. There's so many details.
I would ask, with something like that is kind of unique, if there was something comparable in another town, like say Guilford had a facility that was similar, would that be something you would look at for a number, something in
I
another
would look
town
at
that was similar?
that plus any other resource that's available to me. Yes.
Would something like, having a full fire suppression system around those tanks be something that would be taxable?
Yeah, that's a very expensive item.
That's all value though, so you're taxed on the value.
It's all
How about
value.
personal property, how about things that are stored there, like whatever, supplies,
Generators,
trucks?
tools, yeah, that's all taxable. Anything on site is taxable. Pictures like this or carpeting in the office is taxable.
How about if you had several trucks that were probably valued at $100,000 each?
If they're registered, then they're valued as
If
motor
they're registered
vehicles.
Right.
If they're, let's say,
Is that personal property?
it's just motor vehicles.
Oh, just motor
Yeah.
vehicle, got it.
And if it's some kind of loader or something that is not registered, that's based on site, that's personal property, for example. So again, it's way too early to even come close to a value. But there will be a revenue impact, there will be a positive revenue impact. And at this point in time, I started the process without even looking at the site. I haven't seen the plans yet, but that's why I'm going to wait and take my time and do a lot of research to make sure I get it right. It's very important to me to do a lot of quality control to get this right.
Well, the only numbers that you quoted, Chris, were hypotheticals based on what he asked you to value, like a building.
A very generic office building.
That's all you did.
And it didn't take into consideration the property use.
Right.
Just a generic building as it would sit on any lot in town, or any lot in this county, for example. To draw you a comparison, it's like walking by a car and trying to determine what the value is. Okay, I see it's a Ford Explorer. That's all I know. I need to see the VIN number to see what the year is, to see what the exact model is, and to see what the mileage is.
What it's valued at.
Right. So I can't reach any conclusion like at all the facts involved.
That's all it is.
It's like a $500,000 house or a $300,000 or a $200,000 house.
Yep.
So,
Thank
I
you.
mean, would it be deceiving to put numbers like that on the street?
yes, that's why, you know, in my correspondence, I said, these numbers are subject to change. You know, I said zoning issues, there's the inspection, there's my discretion to see whether I think it's a A grade or B grade or C grade. There's so many different variables involved. And that didn't even cover personal property.
You'll just know after something's built.
Yeah.
There'll be a
That's when
value.
you know for sure.
That's when you know what you're gonna.
The plans are very
your taxable
helpful.
income is
The
when
plans are-
something's built with a value.
Right. The plans are very helpful. I mean, they're very helpful, but then, you know, plans change.
It's still hypothetical.
Plans change.
though.
It's still hypothetical. Right. And until that thing is complete, until I walk the property, you know, and see what's out there,
But again.
I wouldn't
Creative-
render a value. I wouldn't do it, because I have nothing, I don't have enough information to go on.
But to reiterate, the fact that you gave Chris a hypothetical based on a building that he requested you base a hypothetical on, we have no idea what will go on this property if it ever comes to fruition. So
It's like
I
Daniel,
don't even see a relation here, really.
there's very little connection.
I don't see it.
Another question, I mean, it's kind of related, I guess would be to our town attorney, is it even relevant? I mean, for the value of a property, the tax revenue a property brings in to inland wetlands or planning and zoning to make a decision based on what the tax revenue or something would be. Is that even relevant?
I think I actually answered that question, or commented on that last time. You simply have to look at the zoning regulations and look at the conditions for granting approval of a permit or a site plan, and it really has no bearing. The profitability or the taxability of a piece is not one of the criteria that either one of those boards or commissions would look at. So that's basically
That
correct. It
makes-
would not be relevant
It wouldn't be
for that
relevant.
inquiry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing.
Sure.
Next year is revaluation, so it's a whole new ballgame next year. That's another caveat that I built into the estimate that I provided Chris.
Thank
Thanks for coming in, Dave.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do you have anything else, Mike? You want to go on to item B?
Yeah, move to item B. I gotta pass this around as
Yes, sir.
the winter update on the winter storm numbers. Thank you, Anthony, for getting through the latest mountain of bills coming in. So as we thought it was going to project higher, it is. Certainly, I think we'll have one or two more bills associated with that. But you can see at the far right, the total expenditures to date, 85,000. So much of it in the salt overtime issues. So, you know, it concerns me, and I wanted you to have it. And what I'm contemplating at this point, as I mentioned at the last meeting, is I think it would be a prudent move to institute a budget freeze for the last quarter, just to try to get a handle and try to narrow that deficit. I don't anticipate that these are going to go, that they would jump that much higher. Maybe a little bit more higher, but certainly I don't think there's anything big outstanding, unless I'm wrong, Anthony. I think that's probably where we'll peak at, probably 85, 86, maybe 87. So that's what we're looking at this point, and I'll be meeting with staff tomorrow, as we typically do after a council meeting, and issuing a budget freeze effective for the last quarter.
I imagine the vehicles or the trucks, what's the really,
Yeah, maintenance repairs, still, we have a few good breakdowns this year. We did lose 2 snow plows the last storm. well, one prior to and then another one, you know, major repairs. Stuff, you know, they're tired, so repairs keep going on, and we have this spring to go through. It's, you know, patches like, we use like 40-ton of patch this week.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's not over yet.
I got a couple of questions for Fran or whoever wants to answer them. So how much salt, what do we have in the salt shed right now?
We're about probably half full right now.
Okay. So are we slowly getting behind each year now?
Well, yeah.
Because, I mean, we used to try and end the year with everything full and ready to go.
I'm
So,
saying nothing happens between now and when spring really gets here. You know, even every morning, not every morning, but I bet you 3 times this week we've been out treating, even though it's not snowing out.
it's gonna be icy in the morning.
You know, so,
So, did we, and you know what, I could look that up, but are you, because this is like the 3rd winter in a row that, thanks to global warming, we get all this snow now, so, so the 3rd winter in a row, that we've had all this snow, and we certainly can't predict what next winter is. Did you go up on your budget for next year?
no, I kept it the same.
You kept it the same? But I know last year we were behind, and I don't know about 2
No,
years
it's
ago.
It's a 5-year, we're on our 5th year now.
Of being
And
behind?
It keeps catching up to us. This year, we were half full, and we got the salt early, just because, you know, I have to guarantee so much salt anyway.
Right.
So you get it in there, fill the barn up, but now we're at half, and hopefully, you know, nothing happens. Is salt gonna go up next year? I'm assuming it's gonna, usually does. This year, we mixed in some straight salt with the treated salt that we buy, but we got a couple more weeks till I feel more comfortable about it, but right now, we're at half full.
Okay. But 3 or 4 years ago, you were ending the year with the salt shed full?
5 years ago, we did.
5 years ago, we did.
So we went through that cycle, and then you know, you keep slipping. There was a time where we were empty, and we started the year with no salt. No salt, because we just didn't fill it. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling. So
And then, like,
I
these-
used my allotment up before.
Yeah. So then the broken snow plows and all that, I mean, are they fixable, or they should be scrapped?
Well, one is, everything is fixable, it's whether they're gonna last. I think one of them is gonna be DOA, you'll see Saturday, I put in for plows. The newest equipment is 15 years old now, the oldest is 30-something.
So the average age of the trucks is 22 years?
Yes. So the first 89 was the first new swing plow we got with the truck. And in 94, we bought 4 swing plows, that's the newest of the plows that we have.
How many trucks do you have?
9 big ones. So, and they've been rebuilt twice.
All of them have been rebuilt twice?
Yeah. So, in the last 4 years, I mean, they're taking a beating.
Yeah.
And this year was even worse than the blizzard year, because the blizzard year, we got all the snow at once. This year was over the 7-week period,
Yeah.
and it was nonstop. We were nonstop. We had like 1 day off a week. And it's, unfortunately, it fell, you know, the number's up, but we got.
So we're gonna hear more about this on Saturday
Oh,
then?
yeah. We did the
Okay.
thing twice. But just to let you know, and you see the number, the overtime number, we had I think it was 6 storms. I should say events, because they're not all storms. When we go out and we have to do for school to get ice and stuff, that's a storm for us, even though not farm. But we had 6 weekend storms, which we were paying time and a half overtime. We hit of course, a holiday on a Monday, and it was one of those. So we had 6 straight weeks where and, you know, that double time eats up the
Well,
Sundays.
I would just like to take this moment to commend you and the Public Works Department because, you know, coming from other towns and hearing from people, they're like, how come your town has, you know, your roads are in such good shape so quick? And, you know, it's because you guys are working hard and you're smart at how you do it. And so I take my hat off to the Public Works.
Yeah, we all agree, Frank. Well said, Al. Okay. Mike, do you have anything else on the storm?
No, and pretty much covered C as well, that,
Budget freeze?
yeah, institute that.
Now, is the budget freeze, has this been communicated to all departments?
No, just letting you know first, and then I'll, as I said, I'll have a staff meeting tomorrow, and make the announcement at that point.
Right. And then, of course, we have to be careful with the ambulance
Right.
paramedic as far as, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll always have essential services that
Right.
need to be covered. It's just more of the non-essential review process that we'll do. So in no way, shape, or form will we cut back or endanger in any way, shape, or form any of those vital services or critical needs,
Sure.
anything like that. We're putting off things like whether we buy staplers or buying, you know, cartridges, things like that.
Right. Okay. Item D, discussion of part-time position in Public Works. Fran, if you don't mind, come up to the microphone.
Yeah.
As we have heard, the maintenance person that we had hired that went building to building, you know, in the truck, worked very well, I believe.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that person, I believe, left, right?
Yes.
So, go ahead, Fran.
Yeah, we're just looking to rehire the person part-time, at this point.
Same person, Fran?
No.
Oh, because it's, you mean position.
Oh, did I say person? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I meant position. Worked out very well. It freed up our guys from running around changing light bulbs. There's a lot of work. I'm not gonna say it couldn't be full-time, but it could, but it's working at part-time right now, and, I got a folder full of work orders. It's just incredible. And we're still not caught up. There's just a, you know, lack of, for years of, not doing it. And now with the new rec center up there, that, we're up there every single day. So, I'd like to see if we can rehire a part-time person.
Pardon me.
So if we're, that's, you know, I don't know the reason that the part-time guy left, but it
Well, it was-
probably has something to do with it being part-time.
Right, yeah.
So, we have all this work that needs to be done, so, and I know we had a, you know, a very qualified person, but I think we were lucky. As soon as you go to full-time, you're gonna have the opportunity to have a very qualified person, somebody like we lost. And, you know, I think that it's foolish to not move this to full-time.
And the other person would be probably interested, just that he couldn't afford to do it anymore. It was costing him more money than we could pay him. I mean, because it was, you know, kind of low-paying,
Part-time job.
part-time hourly person. And, you know, I just couldn't I couldn't do it. I mean, we're not even through the budget year. We didn't have the money to do it. And, you know, it is what it is. Between that and the Board of Ed, I mean, we've talked about that before, you know, even just teaming up with the Board of Ed in the summer, when they get overloaded. You know, so there's a tremendous amount of work out there. I mean, it's not a problem finding something to do.
So how do we look at that? I mean, we'd have to look at it for this, you know, it's March, so we'd be looking at it for like a July 1 thing, but we should look at that in the budget.
I mean, I didn't jump hiring, because at the time, you know, the snowstorms and stuff, wasn't time to think about it. It was kind of hard that the guy even left anyway, but, you know, now it's calming down, we're starting to think about getting it going again.
Can you put something together for Saturday's budget workshop for us, just so we can see what this looks like, and if And if we
Give us-
had to update it and make it full-time this budget year yet, what that would look like.
You're gonna give us a summary of all their duties, right?
Yeah, the job description, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We have a job description for the person already. It's everything and anything.
Yeah, well, does he get in the trucks and plow too and do all that?
He was doing the snow shoveling, or he's in charge of snow shoveling on the buildings. So he used to, we have the summer help kids come in to help shovel.
Right.
Of course, now we have Route 80 walks that we gotta do until we just, well, figure out what's gonna happen there. The property owners are really responsible for it, but
Right.
we did it this year because it's all new and.
Well, they're
we
fine
weren't
and dandy, but if the property owners are responsible for it, they have to do it.
Right,
I mean, that's not our job to pay you guys to go do somebody's property.
right.
But some
But
of the property is
The thing was,
ours.
that the whole job isn't over yet, and actually Central Plaza started doing it after we did the first one, got rid of the big snow, it was good to shovel, but, and then if we sell the property down on 80, so that's, it all changes, but,
But right now, we have to do the property on 80, because that's ours.
well, we've been doing it all.
Right,
Because it just, we never sent letters out, I don't know if, did we actually accept the project's still open, isn't it?
I think there's a final closeout pending from DOT.
Right,
There's
so
a couple
it's-
miscellaneous items they gotta address.
That's down at the Route 80, 139?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know, Kurt, I'm sure that they're all aware of it, and I'm sure that everybody who turns right from Route 80 down 139 is aware of it. The DOT in their ultimate wisdom, with all their engineers and everything, designed a corner that a trailer truck can't go around. And so, they're up on the curb, and they're, almost to the sidewalk, and it's, they're cutting that corner by 5 or 6 feet.
The driver.
Are they gonna do anything
It's not the
about that?
engineer, it's the
And
driver.
believe me, you can't, that's not the driver's fault.
Well, they
They're either
say
gotta
it is.
take out somebody in the other lane, or go over the curb.
Actually, on that corner, the curb juts out.
Right, I know, it's like.
Further than
it's
the roadway
ridiculous.
does.
Yeah. But I mean, last summer, the grass was dead 5-6 feet.
Right up into the sidewalk,
Yeah.
they run over the sidewalk. Fran and I have met several times with DOT representatives on that.
I know they don't like to
particular
admit they made a mistake,
issue.
but.
And we've gone back and forth and round, and we're still doing the same thing. Basically, they said they put their template on it, and their design engineer says a vehicle should make it. I mean, again, you go out there, it's very obvious, it doesn't work the
Well,
way
it's
they have that.
a
sort of-
safety issue because there's a sidewalk right there.
Absolutely.
And there's tractor trailers that ride over the sidewalk.
Our recommendation is be to redesign
Yeah,
the
cut that
radius and
out.
push the walk back, so
Right.
there's a safe buffer in between there.
And if you have a car in the other lane, there is no way you
No.
could make that turn.
Right.
But here's the thing, you're gonna have a trailer truck that's loaded heavy, and then one side of the, goes up on the curb. So, guess what? It's the people that live in North Branford, sitting on the lane the other way, that the truck rolls over on. I mean, it's just asinine, and it doesn't work. And I've driven a trailer truck around there, and you can't, unless you're in the other lane, you can't, it doesn't do it,
They can look at their template all they want. All they
Yeah.
have to do is come out.
Come out and look at the
what-
dirt.
And we've been out there, on several occasions with them.
All right, so
and
you're-
they've gone
so you're
back,
aware of it.
we're pushing, and, I think, talk to our legislature.
Yeah, I talked to our state rep,
Because we're trying to push it, they're trying to say, it's okay, and we're saying, it just doesn't work. It's not the right thing, not the right way to leave it, because it's gonna be a long time headache for the town. It just doesn't work the way it's left out there.
Their solution is to,
Pave,
pour concrete between the curb and the sidewalk.
On the grass strip.
So
On the
then
grass
people
strip,
are,
so there's no grass
so then people
strip
are
up.
standing closer to the road and they get flattened by a trailer.
Well,
truck.
yeah, but we've been saying that to them, they just don't.
And we've said, it's not just the
Right.
maintenance issue, it's the
I
safety issue.
It's a
Right.
safety
I
issue.
do know, I've spoken with our state rep and the senator about this.
Yeah.
To get DOT here,
Yeah.
and because the design.
Yeah, he's been talking to everybody, I talked to him the other night at the dinner again,
Yep.
but, they're convinced that the drivers aren't, they're rookie drivers, and,
That's not
Oh,
true,
come
and
on.
I challenge them to come down with a tractor trailer.
I mean, and
job.
they did their traffic study, and we talked about all the trucking companies that are in our area.
That are in here.
Right.
Blakesley,
I mean, we-
Chat, all
Well, you
of
have
them.
the truck stop right there, so the trucks are getting
Yeah.
off there and they come through.
Yeah.
They're,
You know,
they're
Alright,
fine
well-
with the designs.
Again, the fact that that curb juts out further than the rest of the roadway,
Right.
that,
Yeah. It's,
Doesn't make any sense why they'd argue that.
oh, well.
Well, I don't know, should we have Michael send a letter and get those guys
Yeah.
here?
Yes.
I
Get
think
that
we should.
group here? I think we
Yeah.
should,
You definitely need to pressure them because they're not moving anymore.
yeah.
Right.
They're, as far as they're concerned, actually, they sent a thing to Kurt the other day, saying, kind of saying that we were agreeing with their solution.
And we
Kurt
said,
denied it and said, no way.
no way we're gonna agree with it, you know, we've asked for a redesign and, redo the
Well,
radius.
why don't we send a letter and get that group that was
Yeah, I
here?
think that- and in fact, I just saw it today, I think what we'll need is, because it's wet and.
No, it's not good for the tires on the trucks. I mean, you know, all that stuff's expensive, and when you're gonna roll them up onto a curb, and I see Mr. Palumbo back there. When DOT's here, we're gonna get one of your trucks and put them in it, and they can show us how to drive around there and stay in the lane.
It's horrible, and you know, either you're going into the other lane, oncoming traffic, or you're coming out with the oncoming traffic
Right.
on 139.
Right.
My guys are continually stopping on to let traffic go, or they're climbing over curbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say is we'll include pictures.
So hopefully,
in that
Dave,
letter
you can be here if we get
Right.
DOT in there.
Invite me in, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, we're going to Blakesley 8, 10 times a day.
yeah, okay. All right. Okay, update on search for EMD.
Yeah, that's just FYI for the Council Emergency Management Director, looking again to get back out there, look and see if there's somebody within the community that would be a part-time volunteer to take on emergency management duties and responsibilities. So we've got a couple of interested people that are appear to be qualified and have the background, so I think we'll be looking at least two, maybe 3 individuals.
Item F, discussion of meeting dates for WPCA on application by Ice Pavilion.
Yeah, this I mentioned at last meeting, Kurt had mentioned to me and prepared a memo for you. It's in the packet, just to kind of outline the request and hope that we can incorporate that, even though we're having the budget hearing on the 7th, incorporate that item on the agenda for action. And I know that ZBA met last night, they did get their variance, I believe.
Also, if I can just add, the reason why, you know, the time frame is laid out in terms of priority, the owner of the Dorfman Ice Pavilion would like to add an extra rink. Time is very sensitive to them. They'd like to be up and running with that rink around September 1st. So they're pushing to get, you know, approvals as soon as they feasibly can to get into the ground as soon as possible. And I basically put a sort of a tentative timeline with the meetings they have to attend in terms of getting approval. The driver really there is the WPCA. They'll need an approval for the connection of that new rink into the sanitary sewer system. That's the April 7th meeting. That allows them tentatively to get their P&Z approval in the second meeting in April, assuming they get everything else in line. And they're pushing their engineer, Chris Cole Engineering, has pretty much got everything wrapped up, but there's a few tweaks they're making along the way. So it's certainly doable, but just want to make sure we didn't lose the WPCA meeting along the way. Sometimes it happens during budget. It should be a pretty standard approval. The biggest thing is a special connection fee they have to pay for tying that addition into the sanitary sewer system. And there's a few modifications, but there's nothing unusual in it.
ZBA and the PZC?
They've already gone to ZBA last night, and they got their approval
Okay.
for their variance.
Does it go to inlands or anything like that?
No, because they're on the other side of where the road is, so they're okay with that.
Okay.
P&Z,
And they're already up and
WPCA,
established and running, and there's no problems anywhere, right?
no.
Everything's done by the book?
Yeah, everything's pretty good. I think we are going to talk to the police chief about parking. We raised that issue, so we're having a meeting with the owner, the design engineer and the like to try to look at that to make sure everything works. But I've heard no other issues, and that should be, I'm anticipating that can get worked out before any action by P&Z. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Item 5, community events and presentations. Having none. Item 6, citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence.
Cliff Potter, 1251 Middletown Avenue. This refers to number 9 and the fact that we have to go to letter F. I guess I was raised different than some of the other citizens in the town. If my dad saw me disrespect any of you, I would have got my butt kicked. You people are non-paid volunteers, and your hours aren't just a couple hours a week. It's long hours, and every board and commission in town, and all our town employees are great people. And I've been watching on TV, because I wouldn't come here when things were happening, because I was disgusted with the attitude and the behavior. There's no reason we should have to have police here anymore. This is a monumental downgrade of our citizens' attitude, and I'm disgusted. I mean, how are we going to conduct town business if people can't behave? I realize there's hot issues, but there's also Robert's Rules of Order and common sense and respect. What has happened to that? I mean, I may not agree with you, but I'll always respect all of you because you're doing a non-paid job, you're taking time off from your businesses, all of you have businesses, lives, to help our town be a better town. We have something other towns don't have. Matt's mission, when Matt got killed, what did this town do? It wrapped its arms around the people. We care about our citizens. And I've never seen such a disintegration of attitude and respect. And it bothers me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah, Chris Kranick, 49 Cortlandt Drive. I was listening to the beginning of what the mayor was talking. I have no idea what he's talking about, that I engaged in some deceptive practice representing myself as J.J. Sullivan. If I heard that correctly, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that because that's outrageous. And I'm not sure the grounds you have in a public meeting to say that I'm a danger to the community. So I vigorously defend that I did not deceive anybody. I simply asked for the tax revenue estimates. And I will go back and listen to your statement, but I'm not sure how I'm a danger to the community. Thank you.
Bob Constantinople, 85 West Pond Road. I heard a lot of numbers bandied around town. One of them was at a meeting. One of the councilmen put a number out there of $38,000. He said he was on the Economic Development Committee. He says, we're going to get that. I heard $100,000 numbers. I think it's a legitimate thing to bring up, what are we going to get for this property? And I don't see what the big deal is that we can't seem to find out why there's all these numbers. Who started all these rumors with these numbers? That's what where did you get your numbers from?
I do not recall ever. Okay.
Now they can't talk. Okay, now you can't talk. Well, you do not recall, it was at a Democratic Town Committee meeting, and there were people there that saw you, heard what you said.
45 seconds.
I got 45 seconds left. Okay, thank you very much. I don't need 45 seconds more. So obviously, you don't want to remember. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Rice, 101 Feather Lane. I just want to make a follow-up comment about the current situation with North Branford Youth Football. Currently, I'm the acting athletic director for the youth program, their cheer program, as well as the incumbent president of the program. We really don't have the fields that we need. And up until today's meeting that we had with Fran and Rose, it didn't seem like anything was really going to be moving forward with the Park and Recs Commission on that. After today, it seems like that as long as the rest of the members of that Park and Rec organization is on board with what Fran had recommended. I think it'll resolve those issues. Luckily, there are two recently appointed members on Park and Rec that really seem to want to make a difference and make things happen. And I just hope that the rest of Park and Recs will be on board with moving things forward. This morning I went through their meetings dating back from 2003, and there was a lot of repetitive issues and suggestions with really nothing being resolved. We've been on a temporary field for our game field for over 10 years. So I just want to bring that to light to the council, and hopefully the Park and Rec will move forward and actually initiate some of these things that Fran came up with today. And any help and support from all of you would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other citizen statements? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 7, resignation and appointments. Having none. Item 8, unfinished business, discussion and action. Item A, tabled. Item B, UI presentation, gas line proposal.
Yes, this was an issue a couple of meetings ago, and tonight Tony Sherman and his delegation are back before you. And Tony, I think you've got a handout we can show. The council had obviously, in a nutshell, heard the presentation, and we were hung up with the programming costs that UI has to do of $100,000. So the council asked if there was another way we could do it without out-of-pocket cash writing the check to UI. So we've done that analysis and come up with a model that's worked in other towns that Tony has shared with us. So it would work, and the spreadsheet shows there that their improvements would be picked up in our assessment. And so we issue a tax bill to UI for approximately $22,000 or $20,000, as long as we're making the at least a minimum $20,000. That they would then pay that tax bill to us. We turn around with that check of $20,000 and do that for 5 years to pay and to meet that $100,000 on this tax incremental difference that we would make up for the improvement from UI. So that was the first charge. Second piece of it was, what would it cost, and that was in the packet as well, what would it cost us for the conversion for those buildings? So that's also in your packet, and that's roughly estimated at $106,000 that could potentially be eligible out of the capital money. So those were the two pieces, and there is a solution on the side of the programming aspect, and certainly Tony can and his representatives can answer any questions you have, but essentially getting a solution to that phase, if you're comfortable with that, and then the capital costs and outlay for the buildings.
I have one question for either our superintendent or Don Winnicki. We've gone over the gas on the other buildings. Are you seeing that much of a substantial savings in the fuel that it would be worth looking at doing these other schools, do you feel?
Well, gas is, at this point in time, gas is clearly less expensive than oil.
Even with oil, what's about $1.89 a gallon right now?
Well, I mean, and that's of course the problem, is that as oil continues to come down, that gap closes.
Right. It's gonna go back up too, and gas is gonna go up and down too. That's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
That's
and
all.
My only concern is, you can look at a snapshot at any point in time and say, okay, gas is less expensive, oil is less expensive. The one thing that sometimes concerns me is a long-term commitment,
right?
Which is typically what I've seen the gas company look for to do these projects.
Right. And also the conversion cost on the boilers are pretty expensive, if I remember correctly. It was
I
about
think that was
28,000 or so.
30, 40,000,
Right.
somewhere in that.
Could we do like we did with the high school and do the dual boilers?
That's what we're talking
Yes,
about.
we certainly can, but again, we have to be a little bit cautious of the contract and, you know, whether we're
Right.
locked into gas.
Right, what they're gonna make us do for however many years. Right.
And I guess my next question would be, the tanks that are up there, I know you did work at, I think it was TVES,
Mhm.
and so they were all in good shape and whatnot, so, you know, we're in good shape
Yeah, as a matter of
far
fact,
as-
we've actually just recently gone through, there's been some recently updated legislation on underground storage tanks.
Yeah.
And we've actually had one of our consultants, you know, do the study, do all the paperwork, make repairs. So we're in pretty good shape with those.
Okay. So I guess you wouldn't be opposed to going dual burners for the schools? Okay.
Just gotta watch what kind of agreement we get in.
Yeah, right.
And can somebody lower the heat in here? It's about 100.
It is, I agree.
And I got shorts on.
I get, one of my questions would be, is that absolutely imperative that we start this summer? Is that?
Tony, do you mind coming up to the mic?
The company has allocated 2014 non-firm dollar, margin dollars from last year to help finance it on our side. We need to spend that money in 2015, so yes, the project would have to start in 2015.
So does the conversion have to take on our end? Do we have, if we commit to this, we have to do it all at one time? All 4 buildings that you're looking at?
The buildings, assuming that we put the line in during the summer months, we would expect the buildings to be online for the heating season in 2015. There's 3 months written into the contract from the time that we actually put the lines in to the time that the conversion has to take place. So that would get your, assuming we started in July, August, probably by the end of November, the conversions should be completed at the schools.
It's a short window. It's a very short window, because this type of thing, by the time we approve it, if we approve it through our budget process and referendum and everything else to go through, I personally don't see it happening that it's ready to go, that everything is converted and ready to go for November 1st. It would be a really short window for us.
Right, I'm sure they could get it and done in no problem, but it's us that's, government always drags its feet somehow. How many years were you looking to be committed to for this? And how much gas do we have to use? I mean, there's gotta be a lot of stipulations in this agreement that somebody has to look at before we agree to anything,
Yeah,
obviously.
We would provide it with an installation agreement with the terms. It's based on the projected load
Right.
from the building.
So, I mean, you could forward something to our town attorney maybe, so he could look at it?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
This way, he could give us a little idea of what we're looking at, so we can weigh that.
Sure, yeah, we would develop installation agreements for review from the town.
Thank you.
Sure.
How does this affect our public works department in terms of the work you're doing in the roads during the summer? I'm just curious, does it have a real effect on you?
You're gonna have to pay for a lot of police.
Who pays? They basically have to patch, temporary permit patch the road. They have police officers while they're doing the work. They're trying to keep off the state highway from down the road. They are on our best road. They have to patch them back there.
I thought your original proposal was you wanted help from Public Works and fixing the roads and stuff. Has that changed?
We met with Mike and some of the folks, and we decided that we took that off the table in terms of having to redo the roads. That was a potential help that the town would give us, and we spoke about it and determined that it wouldn't be necessary.
So in your original presentation, I thought it was, with the money that you had allocated for this project, the town's contribution was $100,000 that you were looking for.
Correct.
Which was not the conversion cost. It was just $100,000.
Correct.
And the conversion cost was on top of that.
Correct.
So now that has been taken off the table, and we're only looking at the conversion cost of $106,000?
Well, it's the town contribution of $100,000, it's $20,000 a year for 5 years.
Yeah,
In-
we're
which
still-
is the
we'd still be
tax.
paying 100.
Which is basically the tax offset.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So send that over to the town attorney, and John can review it, and,
We'll have to wait it out, see what we can do.
Certainly.
See what we can do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. John, next to you again.
One real quick question, I was absent for that. But with upgrading the boilers, what are you looking at as a difference in efficiency and reliability versus what we have now? Like, is our situation at a point where they have to be replaced either way, or?
We only changed the burner, not the boiler.
Okay.
So the impact on the efficiency isn't really dramatic, because all we're doing is taking the gas nozzle system and putting in a dual fuel system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Eric Roby, also with the gas company. Just to your point, the economic analysis that we did when we had met, we did not contemplate that, so that would be upside potential of an efficiency gain. So if you're going from an 80% efficient boiler to a 90+ efficient boiler, we did not include that in. So we tried to take a conservative look at it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item C, 198 Forest Road, review of minutes concerning acquisition of Swycheck property.
Yeah, this is just additional, looks like, council minutes that I referred to before in terms of the intent that was copied for you. And again, an opportunity for me to talk to the state rep about his recollection of events as he served on that committee, and clearly remembers the same thing, that it was open space and passive recreation, but also he remembered about the discussion about easements from the water authority as well, and have not yet been able to locate that. It may have been discussed and not actually gone through, or it may have applied to another piece of property, but it was all within the same context and time frame of discussing it as, open space and passive recreation, so.
Okay.
Not sure there's any more that you want me to look at, but.
No, that's good. All right, item D, town facility study including master plan for the fields.
Yeah, council had asked for those two plans, the Nafis and Young study from 2002, February 2002, and then the Richter Segan study are both within your packet. I apologize that the Nafis and Young was rather thick. You just couldn't get that in the packet in time, but you should all have a copy of that at your desk. And I thought that would be the base, I think, as I understood in the council, to take a opportunity to take a look at that and those plans. And obviously there have been concepts that have been thrown about and might aid in the discussion going forward, putting a committee together and begin to look at this. And as Rose said earlier, with Fran, the meeting, there's some, I think it's getting some traction. I think there's some solutions. I think there's some ideas that it appears to be the right time to look at what the town's needs are and begin to sketch out some plans. And I think we've got some, short-term, intermediate solutions, and then that'd be the springboard to looking at down the road how we lay this all out. With it appears to be, what I see as a focal point on the Tucket Valley Park and Public Works and that area, Swycheck, Highland Park, Auger property, all that cluster there of those pieces of property.
Just for reference, because I didn't know that until today either, but the Swycheck Highland Park study that was done here, this was laid out, and this was and this was prior to the Auger property being acquired.
Right.
So some of this, like on this has an amphitheater over like where the fields are, which now that we have the Auger property, that is probably unrealistic
Okay.
to have that over there. So you just have to take that into context
Okay.
in looking at this. So.
So I'm not aware of any other plans. Those are the two that we were to put our hands on, and I
Right.
thought that would be a good starting point for the
Yep.
council. But if you know of something else that's missing, please let me know. I'll try to dig it up.
Okay.
Maybe Franny remembers, I don't know if it was a plan or, but remember when Highlands piece was bought? And there was one plan that connected it right to the high school and took the road out, and the road, took, Mill Road was gonna just, like if you were heading up towards Forest Road, it was gonna go left and around it so that, you didn't have to cross the road. I mean, and that field is fairly level and really pretty easy to make fields out of.
There's
So
15 acres
I don't
there.
know where, if there was I know I saw a map of that
I
plan.
saw some plans for fields there too.
So,
I think when Frank Conley was town manager,
No,
correct?
it might have been, but like Carl had showed him
But there was
to.
also, Richter and Segan looked at that time, that was looked at as soccer fields. And there was a plan.
Multi-purpose.
That they did on that. The earlier one, we sort of looked at the concept that you were talking about, Al, and relocating Mill Road and connecting all that to the high school property.
Or you could just close off Mill Road too completely and leave it right there, and then you can make that property continue from the high school right across the road to the fields. And just stop the
That's-
property at Caputo or whatever the roads.
Yeah, that's what the plan was.
Just took a nail.
So, I mean, I know I can put my hands on the Richter Segan one. The other one we drew up, that was
Okay.
20 years ago, and conceptually, maybe I'll find something on it.
it's only 20 years ago and we haven't done anything yet.
Nope. No, we haven't.
need to have a
We
plan.
did another study.
Thank you, Kurt.
But that piece, so on that piece, I don't believe Highlands had restrictions
No.
for, because when we were buying that, it was because, hey, this is right here by the, by the schools and a nice flat piece of land, so.
Also resolve the sightline issue on Mill Road coming out, which is naturally waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a drawing with that, there is a picture of that with the fields on it, so I remember the layout.
One that Richter Segan.
It looks like Mr. Rice has.
I got one at my office.
That's true.
Wow.
Good man.
I'm volunteering to chair.
Yep. Let me tell you, we need fields.
So other than, I mean, that field might be one of the lower costs to develop fields on. I mean, and even if you didn't get into closing the road, it's big enough that you could just pull into the field with a parking lot right
Yeah.
next to it and have fields. So I don't think that we wanna I don't think we wanna forget about that piece of land, cause I think it makes I think it's the most economical way to get fields pretty fast. But,
Well, it's good, and it's good for the high school, because they're limited.
yeah, I'm sure they're,
They need a field.
and not only that, the
field.
snow blows off that field.
Yeah.
So now the kids can't ride their snow machines on it anymore.
All right.
All right. Item E, formation of subcommittee, town planning goals.
I'm recommending that we have a plan, that we have a subcommittee, first come up
We
with
have
the
to
goals
develop
for
a
the
plan.
town. We look at everything, all these documents, we don't need to pay anybody for a facility study.
Right.
And come up with a plan, what are our goals for the town, what are the next 10 years? And let's,
What do we need to do, and let's get it done.
We have a timeline, one thing after another. I'm volunteering for that committee.
Me too.
Me too. Great, okay.
I will also.
Okay, so.
All
Make
right,
a
so we
motion
have
to form a
four.
subcommittee for town planning goals.
And I nominate Marie to be the chair.
I'll second your motion.
All right, wait a minute. I have a motion from Counselor Caprio, seconded by, I believe,
Me.
Counselor Rose, to form a subcommittee on town planning and goals. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Armand?
Yes.
Now, I have one question, and John, maybe you can answer. Should there be anyone at large, citizen, or should this be a subcommittee of the council first, and then they do an exploratory, and then go to that next level?
I don't think there are any prerequisites
Okay.
in this case. This is a sort of an ad hoc committee being formed for a specific purpose, the council's goals, whether they want to invite people from the public to sit in and watch, but I think it's a good idea, and this would be the proper venue for it.
Great.
So do we need a motion to name the people on
Yeah,
it?
I mean, if we're forming a committee, we need to
You gotta
say
name
how
the
many people
people.
are on it.
Right.
And who's on it.
All right, we have 4 names so far, so.
So how many members are we gonna have? 5?
4 is good, I think.
We have 4.
4 is good?
Yeah,
Okay.
For discussion purposes, wouldn't it make sense to put a Board of Ed member on it?
that would be awesome. And we're gonna need department heads too. We're gonna need Carrie. We're gonna need a lot of people.
Eventually, I think that would.
We-
come
That
later.
comes
But
later.
I think
Discussion.
Maybe it would be
Go
good to
with
have a Board of
5.
Ed member on it.
We should have a Board of Ed member
You
on
got
it,
5,
absolutely.
All right, who's here tonight? You're elected. You want me out, Lou? The committee? You raised your hand.
said who's here?
You raised your hand,
You
you're
just
it.
bought it. Better do that in an
No,
auction.
you want to be on the committee? Okay. All right. So now we're up, we have 5. which
Initially,
is
we
good.
can
That's a good
discuss who
committee.
should be on the committee.
Because
You
you're
know,
on it.
All right, could I have a motion to
Well, I
form,
think that's
for
later
the
on.
names?
I make a motion that we appoint the following people to the Town Planning Goals Committee: Marie Diamond, Dan Arman, Vincent Caprio, Lou Paternoster, and myself, Rose Angeloni.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Fucy. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Armand?
Yes.
All right. And then you guys could take care of your meeting as far as electing officer, whatever,
It's just
chair or
appointing a
whatever.
chair.
Yeah.
What?
We already did.
That's not a big deal.
What?
Yep.
You're chair.
I'm the chair?
All
You're
right.
chair, Marie. Have a ball.
New business, discussion and action. Item A, budget presentations, town council and board of education. I'm gonna ask that we allow the Board of Education to go first. They've been patiently waiting, and so,
Oh, my computer volume's
do you need us to move, Don? Are you gonna be using
Well,
the
yeah, I guess
screen?
for this one, I guess I'm gonna do a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Are you doing it from over there? Because then we just have to
Right.
bring the mic over for
How
the
long is this gonna
TV
be?
for the thing. Yeah.
My neck's
She had asked for that.
How long are you gonna be?
I think that comes, does that come off?
Nine slides. All compact. Tell the story.
Baby. Yeah, for the RWA. But it can be brief. When does Joe Flana come back?
Well, Don's queuing up, this is just an overview
Sunday?
of what
Oh, he's got another week.
on Saturday. If you have any questions, we'll continue with the process. If you want to electronically send them to us, or phone contact us at central office as we move through the process. Don, ready?
Okay, so what we've done here is to kind of streamline this a little bit and really just talk about the ultimate budget request by the board, which is 4.67% of new money.
That includes 3 new certified positions and 1 special education paraprofessional. An increase of 3.94% is required to fund existing positions and programs. So the difference there is a little over 0.7%. And a major contributor to the request is the cost of health care. So this is the overall summary. Our current operating budget is $30,090,737. The board request is $31,496,142, and that's an increase of $1,405,405. The teacher's contract is a significant impact on the budget request. The net is about a 0.8% increase. Other contractual increases require about 0.66%, and then these are some of the things that we ended up, some of the things that are already in place or effectively need to be accounted for as part of the baseline budget, add another 0.39%. The new positions increase salaries by 0.56%. Health insurance, this includes an increase of 0.14% for new positions, but the total increase I'm going to talk about more on the next slide. All other categories contribute only 0.15% to the requested increase. So healthcare. The budget includes $590,385 in premium increases. This is based originally on the fully insured premium increase, which was estimated to be 19.84%, but then is adjusted downward by 1% for additional employee premium share and also adjustments and allocations for several departments. If the town elects to self-insure, the premium increase using the allocated rates is about $213,000 or 5.82%. The remaining cost would be dependent on the level of funding of the risk corridor, as well as the addition of 3 new certified positions. The town council has heard a number of presentations about self-insurance, so I'm not going to rehash the issues with the amount of the risk corridor that needs to be funded. That's a decision that ultimately has to be made. Title I funding is uncertain and therefore not included. The budget includes a small increase in the enrollment in VOAG schools. Outside placement costs will increase by 3%, although we've now been informed that ACES tuitions will not change. And the enrollment will decrease by 64 students as detailed on the following slide. This does include the correct numbers on the top row. So the current enrollment as of October 1st of 2014, or this school year, is 1,958 students, and we're projecting 1,894 students next year. In order to maintain existing positions that had been introduced into the budget after the last budget cycle, one is a special education paraprofessional in the high school Bridges program. One is a part-time door monitor at the high school. And then this is the one that gets a little more complicated because the board has had to put additional funds into food service over the last several years. We've included an increase of approximately, and the addition of approximately 4 people in that operation. Now, this isn't 4 people new to food service. This is 4 people who were previously paid through food service revenue. With the declining revenue, that's no longer working, so it needs to be reflected in the Board of Ed budget. The new positions, 2 instructional coaches, 1 for mathematics and 1 for language arts. The new state professional development model really anticipates what they refer to as job-embedded professional development. So instead of pulling people out of the classroom and training them outside the classroom and then having them go back and try to practice what they've learned in an off-site situation or an out-of-classroom situation, this is one where the coaches are in the classrooms with the teachers and are helping in terms of developing lessons and really helping teachers hone their craft inside the classroom. We could have asked for another coach for social studies and another coach for science, but we decided to walk before we ran. And these two are obviously fundamentally important, particularly at the primary level, K-5, and so these were the two that the administrative team focused on for this year's request.
They will overlap with 6 through 8, obviously because of Common Core, as we discussed this past Saturday, but the bulk of their time will be at the elementary level.
Now, you said they'll be helping the teachers,
They do
not the
professional
students?
training. They do model lessons in the classroom, they do instruct.
So there's no
They're not
one-on-one with them,
assigned-
with the students? They're basically there to help the teacher be better?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a pull-out program for students.
In lieu of sending 4 or 5 teachers at a time out for professional development, this person is in-house, working on lesson design, modeling lessons in front of a classroom, so the teacher then can have that peer interaction and work with that coach. This has been going on for many years. We had, as I mentioned last Saturday, we had contracted out with North Haven. We were working with their math coach over the last several years. This is not a new concept, but with Common Core and the rigor of Common Core, we need to get our teachers up to speed to implement that curriculum.
We also have a certified school librarian at Jerome Harrison. The cost of that is partially offset by the reduction of the library paraprofessional. Currently, Jerome Harrison is the only school where the library runs with a paraprofessional instead of a certified staff member. And there are some losses that are, or some missed opportunities by not having that certified school librarian at that level.
This position was eliminated a couple of years ago. Obviously, we were in a tough budget season. The administrator that was there at the time felt that this model would be appropriate with the changes in Common Core and the expectations of K-2 students in preparation for grade 3. The current administration and administrative team strongly supports having a library media specialist in all buildings.
And finally, there's an additional special education paraprofessional at Jerome Harrison. This is really driven by a student IEP.
Or it's going to be a personal student's aid?
I usually do this just so there's some sense of what happened between 13-14 and 14-15. One of the ways we were able to achieve what we did within the budget is to fund several positions through Title I or Title II. We eliminated a number of teaching positions, a grade 3 teacher, a grade 5 teacher, a middle school business teacher, part of a high school communications position, 2 special education teachers, and an instructional paraprofessional at TVES. There were some additions that we made with some of those savings that included 2 instructional paraprofessionals, one for a grade 1 transitional program at Jerome Harrison, and the other at NBIS to accommodate a modification to the schedule. We increased the TVS instrumental music from 0.6 to 1. We added some overloads, which are additional periods for high school teachers. And we also we increased a 0.4 guidance counselor to full-time. The reduction of 1% from the budget request requires a decrease of approximately 6 teachers. That's, of course, if all the funding came from teaching staff. I mentioned this earlier, some things that weren't included in the request were instructional coaches for science and social studies, and we also are on the low end of most of the area in terms of substitute pay.
Do we have trouble getting substitutes?
We've been reasonably successful, but we are seeing, because one of the things that's happening now is a lot of the subsystems, including ours, are electronic. So somebody can go on and, they can look at our town, they can look at Branford, they can look at North
Who gets
Davidson.
paid more and they go?
And they can shop around a little and, see where they go.
And many of the surrounding districts pay upwards of $15 to $20 higher per day than we do.
Right.
So that's significant over a 5-day span.
Right.
I have 3 pages of these. I'm not going to read them all, but I just, I think it's important, because if I went through this list, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I've been around this district now for 20 years, and if I went through this list and told you the things that weren't there when I started 20 years ago, it would be a pretty significant number of the items that are on it. And so again, we continue to ask people to do things differently, to do more, and for obvious reasons, we're not looking to add a lot of staff to do it. And so finally, this is our per pupil expenditure comparison. You can see North Branford comes in at about $13,400. The average of the towns which surround us is about 15,400. So if you just multiply the number of students we have times that difference, we're about $4 million less than the average of that surrounding towns. If you look at the state average, it's a little bit lower, so then that number is a little bit lower as well. And the last slide is capital projects. What we did this year is we tried to put together some sort of a 5-year plan, so you'll see some of the items on this list would be repetitive. For example, the unit ventilators at both the high school and Totucket Valley. There are many more than 13 and 10 at the 2 schools, but this is taking some of them and trying to get a 5-year replacement cycle in place. It was mentioned earlier in the communications report, the additional funding that's needed for the bathroom and the track. We still have not waterproofed the brick at the auditorium. The air conditioning units in the administration, library, and CAF areas at Totucket Valley probably should be replaced at the same time the roof replacement is done. I've also included some money for asbestos abatement at TVES. One of the primary reasons for that is it's normally that building is occupied during the summer. You can't do asbestos work with anyone under 18 in the building. So this would be an ideal summer to take some of those areas and remove the asbestos and replace it with BCT. And finally, upgrading the bathrooms at Totucket Valley. That's that really is just an estimate based on the number we got for the high school, which came out to about $100 a square foot, and then taking the bathroom area at Totucket Valley and multiplying it out. So that's a relatively soft number, but the bathrooms at Totucket Valley are old and tired.
Are they set up for handicap already, or it has to be
For the
redone
most
for
part, no.
handicap? Okay. So it's got to be redone for handicap.
The 2 that were renovated at the high school were this
Right.
past year, so they're fine.
What else? Oh, is that asbestos abatement? Does that get rid of all the asbestos in the school? Or
No.
is what's left in that?
No, I believe that's about a third of it.
A third of it. Okay.
So any questions, again, if you want to send an electronic number or contact us as we go through the process, we'll have the information back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone ready for the town side?
Don't blink your eyes.
All right. Yeah, this is, I'd have to start by saying I don't think it's a typical budget. There are numbers in here that I want to run through with you to try and explain and to track so that you follow this through it. You know, we had a year where we're dealing with 4 union contracts, and we're wrapping those up as well. So that has an impact. Obviously, the self-insurance issue that's come up is going to have an impact as well. I put this first page in, and it's really hard to see, but you do have the printout in your packet, in your folder. You should all have the handout. And right at the top of the page, the first number is the town's operations number. And that number is correct at negative 30,000. But that's not the whole story. Obviously, you know we've got union contracts that are driving our budget. So how is this possible? If I could go back, well, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, just a sort of we can go back to this because there are kind of 3 points on this area where you'll see later in my presentation that this one page will sort of tell it all, but we'll go through. Next slide. 30,000, so it's a negative number year over year. However, the true budget request for the town side is 327, which represents about a 2.3% increase. So what's driving that? Obviously, as I said, the union contracts, wage and benefits are about 86% of that. So we do have, departments, some of them you've heard in terms of Parks and Rec and Police, departments that have requests in there from year over year last year. What is offsetting, and what I say it's not typical year, this year at the bottom you see general government savings offset to that 327,000. So you have the OPEB savings, MIRMA savings, and you remember you took action on that several months ago, and then the health care plan savings. So that's why that number is a little bit leading up top there, because you have some internal savings of 358 versus a true budget, what I think is a true budget request of 327,000. So that's why you have that top line number of negative 30,000. So the other side of the equation, we go back to the first page. If you could back up, Anthony, that's the middle of the page where you'll see total non-tax revenue. There in the middle of the page is a deficit hole there of minus 435,000. Okay, so that's essentially our pilot dip in terms of revenue. And that's, go back to the revenue page, that is combined with the fact that this year there's no fund balance to use. We are at the floor at 10% per our auditor's recommendation and the policy of the council to stay at that 10% level. So those two revenue streams combined, over 800,000, equates to about 0.71 of a mil right there alone. So those are the hits that we're taking with respect to revenue this side. You see state aid to education is level, slight increase of 23, but given the fact that it's municipal revenue, that's pretty flat. Permit fees level, and as you know through David's presentation, our grand list growth, it did grow. There was some growth, 0.54%, so not going to move the needle at all in terms of revenue. So really pretty flat, and then not a whole lot. You'll hear more in terms of the presentations on Saturday, but there's not a lot within this budget. The other side of it is capital expenditures. The town budget side, we do still have reserved in there 200,000, and that's half of what police and fire have requested. So that is still sitting in there on the top line at 200,000. Capital expenditures requests 1.9 million, And that is significant. There's a lot on the capital side, both town, municipal side and Board of Ed side. So part of the proposed use of the MBIS excess bond funds is about $1 million for Board of Ed, police, fire, public works, and general government. And that'll be in your updated capital projection. And again, vehicle replacements, leases, and then, as Dave mentioned, reval year, we've plugged in 100,000 for that. And last one is an alternative. If you decide to do that with the gas conversion, that's been allocated, and that's your call if we go forward with that or not. So we stick to the budget priorities, consistently funding what was the ARC, now the actuarially determined contribution, the ADC, for pension and OPEB. Unfortunately, fund balance has been wiped out. We're at the floor at 10%, and continue to look at long-range planning. Roads is, Fran had mentioned, we're going to have to deal with roads and really come up with a cost-effective way to repair and triage those roads out there. And they're, again, in addition to the other capital items of equipment, roads and road repair, something we're going to have to take a look at.
And we don't know what we're getting in LoSAP, right?
Well, we do. It's
80-odd thousand.
yeah.
About 80-odd thousand, not the number in front of me, but.
A fraction.
Yeah,
A fraction of
but
what
it's
the
not.
yeah.
Not big money.
Fraction of what the state used to do, and it got also LoSAP and Town Aid Road funds that, again, it gets rolled back, and trying to do more with less, or trying to, Fran and Kurt trying to stretch a linear foot and trying to go as far as they can. So really, some of the only considerations are part-time CEO. You heard from Pam about part-time help in Parks and Rec. And the rest is, for public safety, police and fire, and public works. There's not a whole lot in this when you get into it. And it is really about the revenue in terms of fund balance, pilot, and just the union costs. Again, yeah, fixed cost obligations and reduction in revenues are the bottom line. And we're meeting our obligations. We're very lean. There's really no discretionary items. Certainly, there are some, as I mentioned. I mean, you can choose not to do those positions. But all in, with everything, Board of Ed included, we're starting at a top rate of what looks to be a heavy increase without any adjustments at this point. Just giving you the sort of a macro picture of where they're requesting, where we're coming in. 1.73 is what we're looking at as a starting point as we develop into this and get into this process of budget deliberations. That's where we're at.
Does this include anything for the risk corridor? Did you put any number in?
We did, subject as a placeholder, subject to the council making that final decision.
What
correct.
was?
What number did you use?
A third? Did you go with the third plan?
Well, a third, but based on the fact that Board of Ed would have 2/3 of that, and we would have thirds, so I think it's 70 or 80,000, 75, 80,000.
For each third, is that what, 80,000 for?
Well, over 3,
That's
a
for
third
the
over 3
town's
years.
portion.
Oh, not the board, okay.
So if we thought about doing $1 million or 900,000 and said 300,000 and took a third of that for the first year.
Right.
Wasn't that low, though, from what they really recommended?
That was probably the floor. You can go up from there. I mean, it's a policy decision that the council needs to make.
Okay.
Now, 1.73 mils is town and BOE, right?
Everything, yeah.
Okay.
Everything. Yeah, so just to recap, some modest requests on the municipal side. There was a savings, which helps, but there's also a general revenue shortfall. And there is a lot on the table for capital expenditures, given what is the MBIS excess bonds plus LoSAP, all the other.
Right, and all that's added
Yeah, and
into that 1.73, right? Or that's not there?
I'm sorry.
In other words, all that LoSAP money and all that,
Yeah,
that's all
right.
in that number, right?
You'll see it in that, yeah, in the capital expenditures. It's actually with Anthony's updates, it's actually closer to 1.9 in terms of total capital expenditures, but it's all lined out and sourced by LoSAP, town funds, bond funds, and it's all categorized in that capital sheet. So you'll see that as well. And I think that's a lot for this, the town to take on. There's an awful lot in there, and actually, you know, subject to the council moving some things around that you may or may not want to do. But we tried to lay out everything. So that's it.
Could you look at what the revenue shortfall is? What exactly is that?
It's at
Is
800,000.
I see how much it is, but I'm just.
Yeah,
What does
it's a
that-
combination.
what does that mean?
Combination of two things. The pilot, which is obviously the big part of that is RWA.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
and the fund balance that we typically use on that page, as you see at the first page.
Yeah, we used to take some from fund balance.
100,000 in capital and a 356, so that was 456. So yeah, it's a big number.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we have item B, new clerk for town council, discussion of search process.
Yeah, just, as you know, Kristen's leaving us, and I know it's a council issue, but if there's any way I can help, and if you would like me to look at other clerks, I don't know if you know, if you got somebody, that's fine, I just would like to assist you. And, I don't have any names for you, but I knew that April's coming up pretty quick, and I don't want to be stuck with it.
And may I say I'm very sorry for that. If I could have stayed longer, I would. I apologize.
We'll miss you. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Put that in the paper or whatever, Mike, find somebody.
Okay.
Was there anybody internally within the secretarial
I can
pool?
send out some feelers. I didn't want to step on any toes. I know it's a council issue, but I can send out some feelers to see other clerks if they may be interested. And if necessary, throwing out an ad or posting on the website
Right.
and see what we can get. If there's anyone interested.
I mean, you know the basic credentials, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Item D, no, I'm sorry, item C, approval to hire part-time maintenance position for Public Works Department. We
Can we
postpone that.
table it just based on our discussion that Franny's gonna get back to us?
Yep. Item D, Police Department surveillance system request.
My understanding they're working on that. I don't know if they have a final figure yet on that.
We don't.
How
Okay.
soon?
I'm hoping that's
Okay.
But Anthony, did you check into our, do we have to go the RFP, to put out quotes and everything else to get bids? Do we have to put it out to bid?
I can actually shed some light on that. I spoke with the lieutenant today, and to your question, they thought probably 12,000 or more, and it would certainly be over our threshold of 7,500. But we're talking with the lieutenant today, one of the quotes is under that threshold, and there may be no need to go to bid. So
Okay.
he's still soliciting and researching and bringing that information in. That was late today that I had that conversation, so
Okay.
hopefully he'll be able to quote it rather than bid it.
All right,
Okay.
that'll be good.
All right, so they'll get back to us. Okay, item E, parking tickets. This is something, they kind of new.
Yeah, this is,
We have
you gotta follow the ordinance, I believe, and
Yep.
this ultimately comes to the council for review and hearing and determination, as I understand it.
Right.
What are they trying to have us do?
Okay.
Yeah, whether or not you uphold the appeal or deny the appeal, I believe, is the process. And unfortunately, we don't have don't have the officer here who issued, and is on.
I just, I'm having trouble with, if the police went and there were signs posted, and they gave tickets to cars that were illegally parked,
Right.
and they want us to excuse the tickets.
And I understand they also made an announcement warning people.
Yeah, that's.
More than one announcement, I was told.
Well, the thing is, did they have any proof that there were no signs there, like they were saying, or not? They said they took pictures, I
I'd
couldn't
seen-
see anything on the pictures.
Yeah, I'd seen one photo that appeared that it's just a signed post without a sign. You know, I didn't do any
I
research.
took a ride up there. There are signs, no parking. You know, it's private property, but what's unfortunate, this
Is it private or
entrance.
public property?
It's private. And what's unfortunate is, with cars parked on both sides, if there is an injury, you cannot get an ambulance through there. And I'm more concerned with public safety. You know, this is hockey, it's not badminton.
Oh, this is at the hockey rink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the Warfield?
No.
And I have a commissioner here, if you would like to shed some light, Commissioner Palumbo, Vice Chairman.
I was also there, we had both.
Could you come to the microphone?
We have
Sorry.
both the hockey rink, both the hockey rink and the field. I reviewed both, they are well signages. I think there was one sign missing. Also, it's well lettered on the asphalt. The biggest problem is exactly that, public safety. You know, we haven't enforced it for years. So, you know, you give an inch, they take a mile. And now we are enforcing it because we've had incidents with fire apparatus or ambulance, can't get through. And it's gonna be a problem if we don't enforce it. That's, you know, nobody wants a ticket. But if your kid or my kid was there and I couldn't get an ambulance in, you know what that's gonna bring to the table.
Yeah.
Versus a $50 ticket or a $25 or an $18 ticket. There's no parking, it's no parking.
But-
Unfortunately, that's,
And it's my understanding there's overflow parking in Honeywell that
Right.
they can
Correct.
use
Yes.
Correct.
yep,
when the rink is,
yep.
when they have games at the rink.
Yes, so unfortunately, it becomes a safety issue. That's really all it boils down to,
Right.
so. And I did go to both sites just so I saw it myself, and the chief had sent, I don't know if you guys have them, but there was adequate signage on both asphalt and road signs. So if you have anything else, I'll be happy to answer, but.
So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe.
Correct.
I make a motion that we uphold the parking tickets issued by the police.
I'll second the motion.
Just as a point of order, is there anybody here?
Is
for
there anybody
the-
here this evening
who
for
wants
these
to be
tickets?
heard on this? Okay.
Okay. Moved by Counselor Diamond, seconded by Counselor Fucy, to uphold the parking tickets. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Item F, review a proposed public meeting conduct code. I gotta say, John, you did a great job, and Dan, you had some valid points that you offered to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John.
Well, I just picked up from Marie Diamond's work, and I
Right,
think the
thanks,
town
Marie.
manager had some
I
ideas.
also worked on it too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marie, you too. I'm
And you
sorry.
did a wonderful
I
job.
You
started,
did
I
a
did the
wonderful,
draft.
you did a wonderful.
It's a
job.
collaborative effort.
Yes.
I was saving the best for last.
I mean, it's.
I guess, John, the only question I had, and it was brought up to me, so I can't even take credit, but if someone didn't sign up, let's say, and we have a meeting, and there's something on the agenda and it interests someone, you know, naturally, they're gonna wanna get up and make a statement, so.
Can they sign up anytime during the meeting? Is that the
Well,
idea?
under number 1, there's no specific time,
Right,
so I would
okay.
say yes. I mean, the expectation is that people are going to want to make sure that they get to speak, so they'll be on the list, and it'll be an ordered list. But that's a good point. Anyone can sign the list at any time during the course of a meeting. When, I mean, they may hear something of interest concerning an item on the agenda that they had not intended to speak to, but now wish to. So there's nothing in one that would prevent that. I mean, it's not like it's 7:01, everybody can't speak, no one else can speak.
Or maybe have two separate opportunities, two cycles, let's
Yes.
say.
Yeah, that's not changed, that's not changing, and frankly, it's just an effort to make things more efficient, not to take away anybody's interest in speaking. And, you know, once again, I know this is kind of hard to comprehend, but any board or commission or the town council, we're really starting from a point where we could prohibit any speaking and be perfectly legitimate, perfectly constitutional. So the council and any boards or commissions that we're trying to address here, we're not trying to do that. But we are trying to organize it so that we can balance the interests of the council in getting its business done in the most efficient way possible, and at the same time allowing the members of the public who often have a very good input to provide that input within certain parameters. And so this is, the only disadvantage here is that I know I sent these out by email to everybody. I don't know if you'll have it in front of you.
Yeah, they were,
Oh, you
they
do?
were at our
Okay.
desk.
Okay, so this is one idea. It's not long, it's not too wordy, I don't think, but you may want to, you may want to make some changes, and that's why we're talking about it.
Mhm. No, I mean, it just comes down to where we almost need a sergeant at arms or a master at arms, because, how do you remove someone?
Well, we want to be fair to everybody, so the rules will be spelled out, and only in an extreme situation where the council is not able to function, is it going to be necessary to give 3 basic warning shots across the bow, and then the person would have to leave. But hopefully, anyone who comes here with knowledge of these rules will understand what they are. We're not trying to trip anybody up or surprise anybody. But it seems like we should have some sort of a rules of order. And that's what this is to address.
I think part of the public's frustration is there's no clear venue for the public to speak. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of stuff to contend with up here, and most of the time, this is not necessarily the right board or commission to be addressed with all the issues that go on, but what is the most appropriate format to address concerns with either town council, planning and zoning, inland wetland, whatever it may be?
This is how people get their voice heard by the whole town, is by coming here and being on TV. And then the whole town knows what their beef is. That's why they come here and do it, because it's on TV and people watch this.
But the problem is, we have limited.
TV, and so is inland wetlands and all the other boards.
Yeah, but nobody's supposed to speak at inland wetlands, remember? It's only supposed to be the people who have business there. They don't have citizens come up and speak from the, for public hearing, that's different, but not at their meetings.
Because many times the issues that are brought before council is out of our control. We don't have oversight.
Absolutely, but people want to have other people know their plight. I'm not a big one for stifling public speaking. I like to let people speak, and I like to hear what they have to say, and it should stay under control. I agree with that. But
I don't think anybody's suggesting that we don't.
no, but I don't like some of the things in here, and I definitely will not vote for this.
I mean,
I think it's pretty fair. I mean, what's not fair in here?
cutting somebody off after 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I mean, they barely get their point out when they're trying to speak, and your time's up, see you later.
Well, you could recite a couple of pages in 3 minutes if you wrote it down.
Yeah, you could, and you couldn't. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying my feelings on the matter. You can say whatever you want, those are your feelings.
I would also just add, I think Vinny has made this point before, his opinion, he's expressed his opinion on this before, so. But one thing that this doesn't address and leaves open is anybody may submit anything they want in terms of written material, such as a letter, such as a petition, which doesn't take up any time in the council, and it may wind up being...
Right, they want to put it in the minutes, but these people probably want to read it on TV and say what they want to say.
Right, but that's where the balancing comes in. We're really not a TV show. We're really an administrative agency trying to conduct business, and in fact, we're a board of finance for the most part.
You don't have to go through all this rigmarole and mumbo jumbo. I'm just not going to vote for something like this, that's all.
And I respect that. I just wanted to point out that there are other alternative means of expressing oneself, if it's going to take more than 3 minutes, for instance, where copies can be distributed to the council, just like vendors and other people who are on the agenda, the gas company, whatever, will hand out items. That's not being in any way limited by this.
So, I don't think that this is that bad. When I first got on the council in 1989, one of my pet peeves was letting people talk. And, and we had, one thing that comes to mind was like the White Hollow sewer, which, is done, gone, and that was, it was outright nasty. Probably everybody that was, came to those meetings is pretty happy to have a sewer line that, so they can add on to their house and put in a swimming pool and all that good stuff. So these rules aren't really new, Vin.
I know that.
These rules were here all along.
I know that too, and we always let people speak.
So we do.
Right.
And I think time heals, a lot of things. And what the problem that I saw with the council was we were getting into debates with people, and that was our fault.
Right.
So the time of speech would be a lot less if we thank people for their comments. And you know what? If they make a good comment and it makes a lot of sense, we're going to address it. Just not that night. We're going to address it at the next meeting or send it somewhere.
We could vote on it, we could do whatever.
So I don't think that this is restrictive, but what I would like to do, it is restrictive, but it's so that you, I would just want to make sure that we had these rules set at the back of the room with the sheet, so that people can read it and say, okay, I got 3 minutes. And
or posted whenever we have a meeting, they should be posted anyways, right?
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, Vin, Marcy, go to a Board of Ed meeting and try and talk about something. Okay?
That's just, I don't believe in that.
So, and neither does, I don't think neither does anyone sitting up here either, but.
I mean, I'd be in favor of some sort of rule or regulation that becomes moot when people are respectful, stay to the point, and so we can be productive. Then all this doesn't make a difference.
Right.
But this makes a difference when we have discourse and people behaving inappropriately. That's when we have to refer back to whatever we vote for.
One other thing, for better or for worse, the council always has the right, if there is an important issue, to hold a public hearing.
Right.
Or to hold something in the auditorium. And we did that several times to accommodate an issue that was of very strong interest to members of the town. So these rules are for the normal conduct of our meetings. If we have a big project going on and we want to hear from the public, as we often do, you can assign an item on the agenda to hear from the public, or if necessary, rent a larger space. You're not required to do that, but this doesn't preclude you from doing that, and, perhaps it ought to be indicated that these are the, under ordinary circumstances, rules of procedure. But no one's going to be coming here thinking that they're going to be at a big 200-person meeting. They're going to see this out right at the doorway, I think, hanging on the wall, and have something inside to sign up on, and they're going to know this is a limited venue.
I'll make a motion to adopt this procedures of code and conduct at public meetings, town of North Branford.
I'll second it.
Moved by Counselor Fucy, seconded by Counselor Rose. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Item G, review of request from Hazardous Waste and Recycling Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the request of the chairman from Haz Waste, I guess essentially requesting that they reduce the committee membership from 12 to 9. I guess apparently it's come up in the past. There's some background information that the clerk had provided in terms of past meetings of the membership, or the number in terms of membership. So I guess that their feeling is that it is too large, and then they run into issues of having a quorum. So that's why it's here as a request, and I'm not exactly sure, certainly defer to the town attorney as to what the next step is.
Reducing the number of that.
12 to 9.
Is it an ordinance? Yeah, I think it's ordinance. Yeah. Probably be an amendment to the ordinance.
Yeah, because you're having trouble. Yeah.
Probably has to go through a public hearing.
Or do we just make a motion to approve that?
What are we talking about the same thing now?
Yeah.
I think you're talking about amending an ordinance. And I think you're probably going to have to provide a public hearing. So that's how I would set it down for that.
And I don't believe there's any pressing timetable for this, and so it's for the council's consideration whether or not within this budget process, or do you want to wait until a meeting in May?
Also, there was a grant too, right? That was for the cog that gave you that grant.
For Haz Waste grant?
Or no, that was for the ride share.
Yeah, that's coming up later, yeah.
Does that have to be a part of the referendum?
No, it's an ordinance change, which.
Just a
is
public
about it.
hearing held here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we do a public hearing, and then after the public hearing's closed, the council votes on it.
Yeah, so I would just throw it out there as looking at it in May. Or you could actually, we'll get through the budget process, and it could start at the April 21st meeting and segue into, setting and
Okay, that's
putting the public hearing in May, first meeting in May.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, everybody's done? We can move on? All right, Greater New Haven District Rides Program. Sorry, I jumped ahead. That was the grant.
Yes. Yep, that's in your packet. That's our annual motion to participate in the New Haven Transit District's Regional Rides Program.
Make a motion to continue being a part of the Greater New Haven Transit District Regional Rides Program in conjunction with our elderly and disabled transportation program. And I authorize the town manager, Michael T. Paulus, to prepare and execute all documents as outlined in the letter of request dated February 20th, 2015.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Arman. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond? Yes. Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Just because I'm curious, does anybody use this?
Yes.
Yeah, they actually do.
Quite a bit. It's, if you
Are there
want-
numbers that,
Yeah, we certainly
could
get
we
some numbers for
get
you.
that just?
Sure.
Yeah.
I know that it's, you know,
The cog sends a month.
been going on a long time, but I was just curious if anyone used it,
Yeah.
you know? Okay.
Yep. Okay, item I, refunding 2010 Series C bonds, final reports.
Just to recap some of the history, remember back in October, we had presented the opportunity to refinance the 2010 Series C bonds. At that time, we looked at about $258,000 in savings. The market eroded a little bit. We were down to about $152,000. We put it on hold. If you come back to February of 2015, the market went back in our favor, and we're up to about $290,000 of savings, debt service savings. But looking at it from a little bit different angle, we took the opportunity, if you go some of these pages in there, sorry to jump around a little bit. The pages that have the graphs are the interesting ones. The yellow line to the right side of each graph would be what the debt service would have been if we went for level savings. About $290,000 in savings. If you turn the page and go to page 3 and 4, the budgetary savings would have gone about $446,000. And that's driven by the fact, if you look at that page 4 there, the yellow line stops at 2028. So just like at your home, if you paid off your mortgage sooner, you're going to save yourself some money. So we looked at the opportunity to restructure some of the debt. There was going to be a significant drop if you look at 2026, the blue lines. There still is a pretty good drop in 2026. It's not as big as it would have been previously, but by moving those last 3 maturities forward, we bumped the savings up from $290,000 to roughly $440,000, and in the end result, the final number was $469,000 roughly of savings, debt service savings. So I wanted just to fill you in where we was kind of up in the air where we left off previously. So about $469,000 after all the fees and costs of savings.
I have a question here. If the Fed boosts the rate, does that have any effect on our bonds? In other words, because rates are going to start creeping up.
Right.
Now,
It won't impact the existing bonds, but
Right.
it certainly will impact our bonds going forward.
Right.
We were
even
borrowing
when
money
redo
on.
these, will it affect it, anything that we redo if things start going up with that? In other words, I'm trying to get to say we need to do this quickly.
Well, this is done.
Oh, it's all done?
This is done. This is put to
Okay.
bed, final numbers. Well, I gave you the report to show you what the
Okay,
final
good.
result was.
Okay.
Yeah, where the Fed will impact us is when we were borrowing the short-term one-year bands in the
Right.
school, we were paying like 1/4% interest. It was free money.
Right.
So as that rate goes up, that's going to impact that rate, and it'll impact the whole yield curve.
Then we had given him permission to just do it if it turned
Right.
favorable.
Right.
So.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay. Before you run, financial report, February 2015.
Financial report, you have the 2 pages, again, the first summary page and the second page being the detail showing the encumbrances. The report through February remains unremarkable. The revenues, again, exceeding on a total basis through ahead of last year, 87% compared to 86.4 previous year. Expenditures are lagging. We're 66.9 compared to 67.8, so we're bringing in more and spending less.
Good.
And again, obviously, the report I gave you tonight regarding the snow removal costs will factor into this, but it's not as dire as it was, if you recall, last year. I was sweating last February when we were going to potentially overspend the bottom line of our budget, so we're not there
spending
yet.
freeze, I think, helps.
Exactly. Oh,
Exactly.
tremendously.
Yep. Thank you, Anthony. Item K, tax refunds.
Make a motion to approve the tax refunds as
Have anything?
submitted.
I just want to make a comment, there's a couple of big
Okay.
ones on there, I'm sure a couple people
Yeah.
mentioned.
Right.
On the first page, what happened there was the taxpayer paid the entire bill in July and then sent her second payment in January, resulting in the overpayment.
That was nice of her.
Yeah, well, we got to pay it back. And then on the second page, the roughly $16,000 item, that company sent in 3 installments of the taxes. So this is one payment going back.
And now, Ann, is that caught with our software? In the tax office?
It'll flag up as being a credit balance with a report that comes off once a month showing
Right.
credit balances called by overpayments. Right, then we send a form out to every taxpayer that goes over payments, gets a form out saying, okay, Mr. Candelora, you've overpaid your taxes, do you want to have a check, sign here? And you'd be surprised how many don't come back.
Right.
There are pages of people who we send reports out to, lists saying, you've overpaid, sign here, we'll give you a check, that go unreturned. Thousands.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Check for me, I don't know.
I'll check.
All right, thank you, Anthony. All right.
I make a motion to approve the tax refunds as presented.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Diamond. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond? Yes. Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Good. Item 10, citizen statements, petitions.
I just have a question, quick, I forgot to ask it during the town manager's report, but on the agendas for our meetings, I noticed on the website under the town council, some of them are posted and some of them are not. And I've been contacted by some residents about consistency and where can they find them. Is there any way that we can have them always posted on the website and maybe, I know it says on our packets that you can find complete packages at the library and whatever, but can you also email them to Bob Hall just so he can have
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
the agendas, so if people go there or
Yes.
whatever, they're there?
Yeah, so I think we've only done obviously try to keep up with the minutes on the agendas. Do you want the agendas posted?
Well,
or
when
just
you
want
look on the
it-
website, it says, sometimes the agenda is there, just the agenda, and then the minutes follow, but it's not consistent, so, and the last minutes that are posted are January of this year. So,
Is there a timeline we have to comply with anyways? I mean,
Well, yeah, they are filed with the town clerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the updates in the new website is going to be a separate button for agendas, so
Yeah.
all will be up there.
Okay.
and when will that be in place? Summer, fall?
Which
what-
year?
Yeah, I know.
No,
that-
it's been a while. Dennis has been working on the conversion of all the PCs, and it's kind of he's got that to the point where he's ready to move the data over. So I would say in the next 30 days, we should have the new website up and running. And one of the
Okay.
buttons we're going for is, on the public documents, you're going to see a minutes button, an agendas button, your budget documents will all be there. So instead of having them scattered throughout the whole website, there'll be one public document section. And definitely agendas is one of the buttons
Okay,
we're
but the
looking at.
bigger question is, who is responsible for posting them on the website? Because you can have all the buttons and places on the website, but
You are
if
correct.
no one posts anything there, what good is it?
Alright.
So,
Yeah, and that'll come out of, and at this point, it'll continue to come out of my office to post that, and whoever, I gotta delegate that to, Gina's handling that now, but if she's out, then it'll go to Rita or Michelle or me to post.
Okay.
So, yeah, once we get, the technology is a little cumbersome right now. There's multiple steps and, we can't get there fast enough, but we'll keep pushing and
okay.
get those up there.
All right.
And certainly push out an email to Bob is pretty easy.
Well, rather than, I know you have to
Yeah.
wait until he comes and gets his mail to get the packets and whatever else, but if you can just email at least the agenda so people can see the agenda, that would be great.
So since we're talking about websites and all that, where I get around to quite a few different towns and their different meetings, it seems like this is ridiculous. And a lot of the towns around us, like the 9 of us would have a laptop, and the Board of Ed members would have a laptop, and there would be no paper. So I'm not saying we need to do it this year, but we really should be looking at that, because it's, instead of getting the big charter books, you know, everything could be in the laptop, handed to a counselor, handed to a Board of Ed member, and we're just, you know,
I saw.
there aren't enough trees in the world for the amount of paper that, especially when we cancel a meeting and then we get the double agenda.
I saw a number of like 56 grand or something like that out of Mike's budget or something. And I said, well, that's probably the paperwork that goes into all this stuff.
All right, so I know we can't fix it now, but, I mean, we need to get there.
Something to think about, for sure.
We need to fix a lot of things.
Yeah, we know that.
Somebody else wanted to say something.
Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, my name is John Laddie. I'm actually the president of the Nutmeg Car Club out of Berlin, Connecticut. And to speak with the agenda, I'm not sure if this is the time or place because I was looking at the website to try to find what the actual agenda and the minutes were for previous meetings. But I know there was a presentation that was done in previous meetings regarding car clubs and in the interest of putting one within your town. And there was some misinformation given in regards to our club. Our club has been in existence for 42 years. We have a very strong relationship with the Berlin Lions, and the club itself is not closing next year, and it's not closing anytime soon. So I just wanted that information added into the minutes, and just for your reference, just to clear the air on that particular matter.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that was 50 seconds. Okay.
Okay, start the clock, Mayor.
What did you say?
Start the-
I have a question because there's two places for.
Sign your name, Cliff.
I will.
Okay.
In the next. You're holding my minutes. The customer comments. The visitor comments have always been in two places, the beginning of your night and at the end of your night.
Right.
You cover a lot of information, and we sit back there and massage it and wait till we're in an orderly manner to discuss it. I'm confused. How would we get, if we hadn't planned to talk, and then all of a sudden something comes up in new business, how do we get a chance at the end of the evening to talk?
No, that's what I was saying.
And you go
You'll
back, you have to sign it and go back.
So
and sign
after you talk about something, we go back there and sign a sheet? And then before you get to the last citizen comments, you would read that sheet? Okay.
Yeah.
Because you guys, you know, and we respect the order, but again, we would still like to speak sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Cliff,
just, it's all procedure, I know that.
We always want, you know.
Yeah, and so, but again, you put out a lot of information and again, I bother Gina every month for the agenda.
Sure.
One less call or email she needs. So, yeah, you know, but we try to get in the pre-town council mode a little bit too.
Right.
So we don't come in here ice cold.
Sure.
And slam you guys.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there any further citizen statements? Have it. Okay.
I think Rocky don't use tablets that can count for their council members.
I didn't start the clock yet.
Hello, everybody. John Landolph, 145 Village Street, Northford. I just want to back up Mr. Potter's previous words earlier in the evening about people with discourse. Listen, I went to some planning and zoning meetings, and most of the people were pretty decent. But there's a crew of them. I mean, I can make comments. I want to see you dead with your underwear on and stuff like that. Charging the meeting. Dave Palumbo's mother sitting there. Guys are charging the meeting. The woman just got out of the hospital. I am disgusted with that kind of stuff. And that's what we're talking about. It's not everybody. It's the few and the elderly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further comment? Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
To include the town manager, town attorney, is that all we need?
Moved by Councilor Rose, seconded by,
You could add Anthony.
Oh, Anthony, okay.
Sorry, Anthony.
was that seconded by you, Rose?
Sure.
Seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Caprio?
Yes.
Councilor Diamond?
Yes.
Councilor Fucy?
Yeah.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Arman?
Yes.